everybody, Sarge, reporting for duty. Welcome back to another talk of accessibility in gaming. We got pretty much the full crew here again. Kashadow's somewhere. Tasiga's not with us. Of course, they're talking about joining, but there's some issues with setup. Um, and I wanted to talk a little bit more today about utilizing different tools virtually, especially with everything going on in the world right now. I think it's important to look at things you can do. It's one of the reasons I personally heavily recommend, if you can afford it, tabletop sim over um, Roll20. That's the name. Um, Austin, thankfully, has set up a bunch of stuff for Gordy here to help them with all the things that they use. Which we've shown in the first episode we did. Austin has set some stuff up. We are looking at tabletop sim. There we go. Okay, it took a second for me, on my screen at least, to come over. So this is kind of the setup here. If you've never used Tabletop Simulator, you can do all kinds of things on the table. This is a setup that we have for D&D. This was actually part of a game that we were playing. And actually, I didn't even plan on it, but do you guys want to talk real quick about what's going on with this 3D stuff here?
So basically, and I honestly don't know why I struggle with this, but I've always struggled with 2D versus 3D planes. Like, I noticed it early on when I played 2D Zelda games that I could not comprehend, because I would picture in 3D, basically. So when we play these games, it's hard for me to visualize. So Austin was kind enough to take the map that we have over onto the right and put it into a 3D space.
I'd like to comment that actually, though, this looks extremely crude because it is. Literally, as we were playing, Gordy went, "This is difficult for me to figure out who is where in three-dimensional space." And as we're playing, in like 10 minutes, Austin threw this together. So Austin, I don't know if you have any comment about, like, have you seen this done before, or?
Well, like, you've seen what I've done IRL with maps.
Yeah.
Austin builds like these 3D sets just for the hell of it.
I can send you the images, Keith, for you can show on screen while doing 3D in IRL.
Austin very often does three-dimensional models for us, and typically they wind up just being here at my house because I like to keep them. I think they're really cool. So yeah, we can show some of those on screen as we're talking about it now. That's for Shadow to do. Shadow, do work.
So basically, I think I said this in the first video I was on, but I've got a history in game development, game theory, game design. Originally, my career path was video game programming and design. I ended up kind of putting it on hiatus, near indefinite hiatus, because I'm dyslexic and coding is hard. But I might go back to it. But I've got most of a degree for that, and I've got a lot of experience with that, and just playing games in general. Because of that, whenever I make D&D maps, my biggest gripe with D&D maps is it's always big room, hallway, big room, hallway, big room, and that's boring. So I like to make very intricate maps. But when you make intricate maps with like 4 stories and crossing bridges and like a giant moving clock tower where you're inside the gears and they're all moving kind of stuff, it gets complicated for the players that who didn't build the map to understand it. So
we've sorry for interrupting. Like, there was a point where I was getting confused, so I wrote a little cheat sheet on the paper of, like, because Austin would organize it by colors. So it'd be like red was first floor, blue was second floor, etc.
Yeah. So because of that, my 2 options were make maps simpler or figure out a way for my players to understand, and I refused to make them simpler. So what I ended up doing was basically just making the maps 3D instead of 2D, so that people can better grasp what they're looking at.
Because I know we've tried some different. I've seen you try different variants on how to make them properly, how to make them 3D on visually with a 2D plane. I don't know if you want to talk about any of the, because I could think of several.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of methods. Like, if you just look at tabletop, I can draw out
Yeah,
something.
we are currently on tabletop. They're not seeing us.
So, like, common things are you got lines.
Could you do me
have
a
the
favor and not use purple because that's super blends in?
But how about yeah?
Just use white.
I was gonna say green, actually. Yellow, yeah, yellow works. That works much better.
So you have a grid, and then you draw thicker lines to denote like walls and stuff. You can I typically do this kind of design to show ledges. If
Ah.
there's a confusion of what walls are and what aren't walls, I'll do double thick lines. I'll do like architecture where you make boxes for windows. Doors are this design. There's no curve there. Hold on.
Yeah, usually it's a curve. Yeah.
Basically, if you've seen a blueprint for a house, basically use
Yeah.
that as a way to make dungeons.
So to comment for anyone who is a little confused, oh, that's right, I can do this too. Although, oh yeah, because that's WAC. This side here would be the side you'd stand on, and then this side would be you falling off.
Yeah.
On the ledge you did here. I was gonna comment because I know I've seen you do essentially a 2D map with several overlaying, and then a side view.
Yeah,
tried
that's
that.
what I was bringing up with the cheat sheet I made.
Yeah.
So like common staircase design. Most people know that by now. Sometimes they do this to note which way is up and which way is down, like a triangle
Yeah,
shape.
that one I've seen.
And then like this would be an upper area over here and a lower area over here.
Yeah.
Opposite lines. And the vertical. So if I were to make this more clear three-dimensionally, I would also draw something like this on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, this and this translate that way.
Yeah, and he would make maps like this so that we could see, we could see it from the top view and side view. I found, keep in mind, of course, this is a super simplified thing. He did like 6 stories, I think, wasn't it? With all different levels of like catwalks and all kinds of stuff, and that's where Gordy got confused and even for me, it was mildly confusing at points.
Yeah.
But just
so yeah.
I just wanted a quick show. This is the kind of thing, like literally we're doing stuff over here, we're walking on these areas, and Gordy just kind of made a comment, very fairly, going, I'm having trouble figuring out what's up, what's down, where we are in 3-dimensional space. And Austin kind of just threw this together. If you know what you're doing in tabletop sim, I guess he altered some of the physics a little bit. We murdered a werewolf. Or no, we restrained the werewolf, because right, that was a person.
So yeah, one example to like put it in perspective. If you look at the original board, say that's Gordy, and we'll just say that's a werewolf.
So Gordy,
obviously,
werewolf.
Obviously, you can draw a line from here to here. It's like, all right, I'm gonna shoot an arrow at this werewolf. It's like you can't. There's a building blocking, and for some people, this is clear.
That's how like I see. Like I just see straight ahead. It's like, oh, it's a straight shot because I don't register this as a building.
Yeah. So
like the height difference.
Yeah, for someone like me, here, I see this and immediately go. My mind immediately tells me I could not see Vincent over here, who is the werewolf. I couldn't see him. To me, this map makes perfect sense because I'm just like that. Like I'm not. There's nothing wrong if you have a problem with that. It's just
Yeah, like the map does make sense. It's just I can't comprehend 2D to a 3D plane, which is very annoying to me.
Yeah, I was just commenting more the difference, and because to me, like honestly, it literally takes me a second to process that someone might have difficulty reading that, and it's totally fair if you do. But personally, because my brain just clicks it so fast, I guess I'm saying it's important to be cognizant of the fact that of that people see things differently.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you look over here at the 3D map, I put the characters in the same spot as over here, but it's a lot more clear for someone like Gordy because if you look at it from whichever angle you want, you can see that Gordy's character couldn't see the werewolf because there's literally this building blocking the way.
One of the things I did
camera.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. One of the things I actually really liked about this 3D map is you can literally like just kind of, if I can, let's drop. Is drop nope. I don't know how I lower myself. Yeah, there we go. But you can like, you can kind of almost look through their eyes and see from this perspective. Okay, well, and look around. Do I see that enemy type thing?
Yep.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely helps me, which I appreciate.
Yeah. And of course, because we couldn't find ladders, we just used chairs as ladders. You stand on the chair, I guess. I don't know. So that was. It was on the field, and I wanted to bring that up. Something that you could do, and I do hope Shadow is able to edit in the pictures of some of the stuff Austin's done, because it is very impressive. What's the name of the board that you use? What is that? It's not cardboard. It's
Foam core.
foam core. Just foam core. I've done a little bit of work with it myself, not a ton, by far not as much as Austin. I'll probably be sending Shadow some pictures of my own of the stuff that I have here that Austin's designed and built. And again, as I've said a million times, being a DM just takes a long time. It takes a lot of work, and I do think it pays off, especially if you have multiple games. You can reuse some of the stuff you made. But
Yeah, like the spin maze you can definitely use all the time.
oh yeah. Oh, there's a fidget spinner. Well then.
Yeah, I also feel like if you have, and this is just from being me, if you have players who have any sort of learning issues, or in my case, whatever the hell I have, as I mentioned before, I'm undiagnosed, sadly, and hoping to change that in the future. So I can't specify what's wrong with my brain. But when you have players like me, it can be a lot harder than if you have neurotypical, I think the term is.
Yep.
Yeah, neurotypical players. So you definitely do need to have patience and try to think outside the box a lot.
There's also just the fact of different people have different experiences in life. I'm really good at a lot of things D&D related because I played tons of video game, and a lot of that stuff translates over into tabletop, whereas there's plenty of people, especially nowadays, getting into D&D who aren't into video games, aren't into like puzzles or roleplay or 3D maps or anything like that, and just how completely new to all this stuff.
So, with that being said, we've got the 3D. Like I said, this was slapped together, and I think it's important to mention it because it's literally like just to me in my head. Like, look at it. You got this nice map with all these cool. You got the boards and ladders and all this nice detail, but like this uses literally just basic blocks and tables and chairs for ladders, and it works fantastically. Like it's not. The level of detail I think is nice, but on the map, but it's not nearly as necessary as the utility of the three-dimensional space. And I wanted to just point that out.
And to expand on that, I can actually load up a different map to show that you can, if people have with like identifying a chair as a ladder, you can definitely get more detailed. So this is loading in for you guys.
Yep. Yeah. It's
this is a map. This is a map someone made on the workshop. You can just subscribe and download instantly. And it's
Jesus.
the same concept. It's just a bunch of assets. All of them are in this bag, so you can use them in any game you want. You can play around.
What bag? Oh, this bag. Yep,
yeah.
There we go. So you got the bag. I don't know. Stage. I don't know what that's about, but yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah, this is kind of stuff, especially like I said, things. But like. To me, I'm assuming you said someone made this, right? You didn't make this, did you, Austin?
No.
Yeah, so you just load this up and congrats. You got a nice little dungeon. I know I've never seen this before. I'd play through this. Although I know you wouldn't do this because you hate the big room, long hallway.
Yeah, it's fine. It works.
Well, Austin
it works in some cases, but every single dungeon.
Well, my point being that Austin wouldn't because he's Austin, but this would work perfectly fine. I like how several of the textures just have the Photoshop symbol on them, or not Photoshop. What is that?
Photo bucket.
Photo bucket. Thank you.
Yeah.
But again,
this is another thing that a lot there. To talk from experience, there's a fair number of people who don't do well with like imagining stuff being there, like really require a visual component to understand what's going on. So some people would really like the fact like there's a bookshelf and a summoning circle and a fire here, Whereas before, if you just said that's in the room, or like you just make a little circle to identify, some people have a lot of trouble with.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I actually just think of there's I believe it's called the Lost Episode of Acquisitions Incorporated. It's one of my favorites. I don't watch too much D&D stuff, but I do love. And it starts off with a recap, and they're showing there's someone animated at the beginning, and they make a joke like basically they confronted a whale death cult, and they're like, wait, what? What are you talking? Oh, I'm sorry, no, not Orca, Orcus, the god Orcus, and it just shows all the animation changing everything around it, and they're all the players. What the heck is going on? What is happening? Because they're all super confused because he messed up the
Yep.
name. Like so, visually you have this set up, and you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Just throw a couple killer whales in here.
Yeah, it literally had like a whale dressed up in a like robes and stuff. It was very funny. So if you want to go back to the other screen, because I did want to talk about tools. The other tools.
Yeah, it's laggy.
Yeah, it takes
To
a second
jump
to load.
back, if you guys remember the stuff we've made for me for IRO, Austin was able to emulate it in this game.
Yes.
If we move over to my corner,
Yep, I've got it screened in here. So for
I get
starters,
the
actually,
pleasure of
I-
2 drawers.
I actually didn't even realize that Austin managed to get loading complete. Austin managed to get all the dice, the different colors, because these are actually, if you were to compare them, these are the the D10s are the same, but I believe it was green is D10, and blue was the D100. So we have the distinction. Missing.
Yep. And I have all my pink die over there because I was rolling a bunch.
Yeah, so Austin was able to emulate the color that we had talked about before, which, again, I don't know how many people would find it useful. I do think it's, if someone has difficulty recognizing the shapes or number or like what dice to pick up, I think it's a very ingenious and simplistic way to make it a lot easier to also speed up the game, instead of having someone feel awkward waiting forever while you try to find it.
Also good for kids, like 12 and under.
Yeah, good for
A
kids
lot
12
of-
and under, in case someone couldn't hear him because he's glitching a little.
Yeah, a lot of the tools that I use are actually very useful for youngins. When I posted the sheets on Twitter, a lot of people were saying that their kids will love the sheets.
Yeah.
So it
So
was really interesting.
I actually personally, though, this is because of the level we're at, where the great sword has the same chance to hit as the bow. So I actually really particularly like this over here, where Austin put in specifically just great sword is just no sharpshooter and done. Because
Yeah, that
also,
definitely helps me.
it's easier for us though because we have a type of bow that does 2d6, 2 pink, which is a homebrew item for us. Sorry for yet another cut. I don't know how obvious it is, and I just made it more obvious. Who the fuck cares? That is a homebrew thing. The 2d6 for an arrow, but again, it little tricks, anything you can do like that really would simplify this. And we've got this little tube donut. I don't know what it is. Ring, I guess.
It just worked.
It should be yellow. Be Sanic the Horgehog ring. So you can move it. And again, at this juncture, it's a little bit less, I feel, for communication purposes, personally. Because we all have to... Yeah, you have to... If I'm over here on my character, Tasha O'Brien. I'm over here on Tasha, and, I'd have to, like, scroll way over, and I'm right next to Gordy.
Yeah,
but
for this, it's more to help me focus, because unfortunately, being on the computer, I get distracted way easier than IRL, so... It's a lot easier to help me stay focused.
Yeah. But
also why there's a fidget spinner there.
Yeah, I actually didn't even know you could do that. So I assume this wasn't difficult to make, Austin.
No. It's literally just a bunch of line tools, text tool, and that's it. You can play around with tabletop. Tabletop Simulator is kind of weird to learn at first, but after like 1 or 2 games, you pretty much have it mastered. It's pretty intuitive. And the tools allow for a lot of customization. Like the different colored dice, it's literally you just right click and then you can change the color as if it like a Photoshop program.
Yeah.
Same with all the line tools. And then a lot of assets are built into the game, like creatures and monsters and all that. And then there's a ton of stuff on the workshop you can just steal from all over the place.
I gotta say,
Yeah.
actually, this thing right here was the roller strip is something that's always at least moderately confused me. I don't use it. So for those who don't know, you can literally just like I got the D20 here. I hit R and it just throws it, and then you can hit R while it's in the air to give it a good roll, and it rolls. I got a 3. That's not shocking. I have terrible luck. But so like the roller, I guess you can like click and it shows up, and then I don't know. Does that auto did that right?
Yep, it auto rolls, and then once it stops, it'll tell you on screen. It'll
Yep.
also say in chat, so everyone knows immediately.
Ignore
What's
my
really good about this,
ignore my truly atrocious username. Shadow, censor it. She's not gonna censor it. Sorry. Continue.
what's good about this is when, especially higher level, like or like with rogues or paladins or someone who, when rolling damage, has to roll a bunch of dice and add it up with their modifiers. Say it's like, oh, I gotta do 2d8 plus 3d6 plus a d4 for damage. So you hit the d8 twice, the d6 3 times, and the d4 once. It'll roll all of them.
Oh wow. Half of them get stuck.
Yeah, but
It's fine. It still calculates.
Yeah,
and then it'll calculate the total on screen.
Yep.
So 32. Don't even need to roll or count.
Well, so yeah, the 32 plus, and you do need to keep in mind modifier, but again, that's not that difficult.
Yeah, it's better than having to look at 30, especially like something like Shadowrun, where it's like, all right, I roll 33 d6, and then I gotta count that together, type thing.
Do these potions have any utility, or are they just aesthetic?
They're just aesthetic, but you can script stuff with them. I was going to script. When you click on it, it would roll the potion number of dice and then give you the total, which is something you can do if you're good at programming or just basic scripting, where it's like you click the potion, it'll roll 2d4, and then it'll add 4 to that whatever you roll, and it'll tell you the outcome.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tools that you can build to help as well, and there's probably stuff on the workshop already.
Yeah, as well, especially like I said, with everything going on, that's why I did want to do this. I wanted to look into this kind of a thing, because I've heard a lot about games, and I know things are starting to go back to where they previously were, but a lot of people are still very nervous about getting in person and gaming, which is very fair and valid. But I do, there is an alternative, and as I believe I said in a previous episode, like I thought this was going to be terrible. I genuinely was like, this is going to be so stupid. I don't want to deal with it because I like physically. I tend to be more of a tactile learner, and so I wanted to be able to feel things and touch them and yada yada. It works great. It works fantastic. I love it.
It's also
actually... Go ahead.
It's also a good way to like play with your friends who live in other states or overseas, because a lot of gamers don't think they can play D&D online because of how crappy some of the programs are.
You were going to say, Austin?
Yeah, I was just going to mention a big wall off people have with online D&D is the fact that it's very much a lot of time of looking at a map and then talking to voices. Whereas tabletop, because it has a physics engine, and basically you have like a character, you can play as if it's more real, like you're actually rolling dice, you're actually moving pieces. It feels more like you're there. Especially if you have a VR set too, which this game does have VR set up.
Oh, wow. Oh, dang. I'm actually looking at setting up VR in my apartment. Jeez, in my house. So actually, yeah, that'd be really cool.
It's a ton of money to get it done, but if you got 6 people with the VR sets in your D&D group, you can actually shrink yourself down and be first-person D&D.
Oh, so I couldn't, because I'm looking at setting up VR, I couldn't play VR with you guys who aren't playing VR.
No, you can.
Okay, so I could, yeah, so I can physically feel like I'm there if we did this. I just realized also one of the reasons that I had that opinion is I had slight issues. I've played a Discord D&D game before, and in it, there was a lot of problems. It was you describing it made me realize it, where you look at the map and then talk to voices and yada yada. And actually, one of the biggest issues really with it was the fact of, to me, was it heavily imbalanced the game, especially with AOE's. Because without a set hard idea of where I was, the DM tended to just like legit leave it to chance how many I would hit with an AoE or whatever, and I felt that legit just made any AoE attack, kind of any AoE spell or ability, a lot worse.
So you're playing without a map.
We played with a map, but without a grid, if that makes sense. So like,
Okay.
yeah, now we're in this area, but
Yeah.
and we kind of just play that by ear a little, and I felt that kind of had its own balance to doing that. It was more RP heavy, anyways, but whereas
Well, those kind of games are not uncommon, and that's typically if you want to. It's where the balance of spells and attacks don't matter. It's you're role playing the battle
yeah,
more than anything.
which is fine. Yeah, I'm not trying to bash on the DM or anything like that. It was just a comment. I realized that was probably partially why I went in, because I love RP, but I have to be honest with myself. The fact is I do at least somewhat enjoy D&D for the power fantasy, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And so there were times where it's just we became mildly frustrating, especially starting into it, not knowing that the game was going to be a different balance.
Yeah.
But I wanted to cut this one a little bit shorter because people have commented to me that potentially the like full hour, because I never stop rambling, was a little long. But so before I wanted to try to finish up, because I said it actually around this point before and rambled for another 45 minutes. We've got the tools we have over here, because again Gordy is playing at this one, I believe it's Arcane Archer again.
Yep.
It's what I'm comfy with.
Which, by the way, yep, we've got the character sheets, which aren't our fancy special character sheets, because
Yeah,
they suck
to
like that.
to compensate for that, I do have my sheet open in an art program. I used to use Photoshop, but I'm using Clip Studio Paint. You can also use MS Paint, any free program that you can just write onto a drawing.
Mm.
So that's a way I've been compensating with it.
But so we've got, again, I do think it's. I mean, it actually is nice to have. I would assume. Feel free to correct me, Gordy. To like physically have Action Surge, Second Wind, Arcane Shot, like just kind of here.
Yeah, it does help. It's not as nice as the tool I use IRL, but it is a way to help.
So we kind of line the. I should let Austin describe this because he's the one who actually made all this.
Describe what?
We've got the Action Surge, Second Wind, Arcane Shot, and the attacks a turn.
Yeah. So, in tabletop, there's plenty of D&D assets you can get on the workshop. The character sheets and spell lists are common assets. Another one is these, they call them just resource sheets. You can name what the resource is. So, like, if you have lucky, if you have, like, how many smites a day you have, how many second winds you have, your action surge, your arcane
Key
shot.
points for a monk.
Yep.
Bardic Inspiration.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You have your total that you have, and then how many you currently have, or expended, however you want to do it. And you can mark down just how many you use or how many you have to keep track. Simple as that. All you have to do is just edit it with the in-game features. Then we, somewhat crudely, recreated what Gordy has in real life, where they have trouble remembering how many attacks per turn they have and how many times how they can attack and use action search. So simply, it's just we wrote down attacks a turn, 1 and 2 attacks, the block signifying which attack they're on, just as like a step-by-step process, and then a little token for action surge if they have it. If they have it, they can toss it. Action surge is used, attack 3 and 4. Simple as that.
How did you get it? So when you draw over here, is it always that high?
The reason is because of the table. The table height is at this elevation, and the item board is lower. That's all.
I just meant, so there was no fancy trickery you did to get these things raised above all this. This was just the board itself, the table itself.
Yeah, it's just the actual table geometry.
Yeah. I don't know if we can link any of the the basic table or whatever. Obviously not your personal map or whatever, but if we can link the basic table, if you could send me those links, I'll put them in the description down below.
Yep, I can send you the workshop pages. If you have Steam and you have the game downloaded, you just hit subscribe and it's all loaded in.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
So again, the reason I do, like I said, I don't have they're not giving me money or anything to promote them. I just feel but Tabletop Simulator is what? It's $20, right?
Standard price, yeah.
I'm sure it goes on sale often enough. It's $20, which is, obviously people are in different financial situations, and that's fine. But I do feel for the majority of people shouldn't be too bank breaking, and then everything else is just a time investment. It seems.
It does go on sale a lot, so you can always wait for the summer sale or the Christmas sale if you really can't afford the full price.
Yeah, so I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with using Roll20 because it's free, and that's perfectly fine. But I think that that tabletop sim just adds so much to D&D that you couldn't like you could never make any of this in Roll20. At least not in my experience. Maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to tell me, but
it has a lot of accessibility features.
yes, which is what I want to talk about. So. Again, I can blather on ad infinitum, ad nauseum, until the cows come home, however you want to say it, forever. Oh, real quick, when we have a wizard on in our group, and yeah, you get cool spell sheets too if you got spell cards rather. Which is nifty, and that's a Kirby that eats dice. So, I think I actually don't know how Austin put the map over like this, but we get the cool maps. I'm giving away all your secrets, Austin.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, the game just has a bunch of stuff and like resources you can find online. For instance, just like if you're not a person who likes making maps as a DM, they have plenty of maps that are pre-made. Like the map over here on the board that we have. This is just in a bundle for a D&D work.
Yeah. So, yeah. There's other tools we can go over, but I wanted to keep this a little bit shorter. I do believe that's gonna be all for today, unless you got anything you wanted to comment on. Any last words, Admiral?
Nope.
Shadow. Gordy?
Just have a good one. Enjoy gaming.
So, remember to comment on the video, like the video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like it. Sarge, being relieved of duty. Have a good one, guys.